you keen to start sowing seeds, but not sure how to begin? Well, stay tuned and I'll show you step by step how I sow my seeds. Hi everyone, Valerie here. And if you like garden videos, then you're in the right place. So remember to subscribe. The seed sowing season is an exciting time to be a gardener. But when I was going through my seed collection, I actually found 17 different sizes and shapes of seeds just in my vegetable collection. With this much variety in seed size, it's easy to become overwhelmed with what to sow and where to sow it. I hope that this video takes away some of the mystery about seed sowing and show you just how simple it really is. So how do we get started? Well, let's take a look at the seeds, shall we? Right, these are the 17 vegetable seeds I found. These sizes represent all the different types of seeds. Some of them look very similar, like the cabbage, for example. That looks the same whether it's a Brussels sprout, a broccoli, a cauliflower. There are many, many seeds that look like that. So these just represent the sizes of vegetables. Any that look the same, plant them the same way. And I thought I'd just go along the line and tell you which each one is. The first one here, this tiny little thing, is a celeriac seed. This next one is a cabbage seed, a leek seed, carrot, lettuce, aubergine, radish, spinach, chard, parsnip, cucumber, pea, sweet corn, a French bean, a courgette, a runner bean, and this one is a broad bean. When you look at the size of this tiny celeriac seed compared with a broad bean seed, you can see the vast difference in size. So are they all sown and planted the same? A good guide to seed sowing is to use the size of the seed to determine how deep you sow them. That means how much compost you would put over the top once you've laid them on the surface. And that guide is you cover them roughly with their own size depth of compost. So it will be one seed on top of each other. That's how deep it's got to be. That would apply for the smaller seeds. I should say with the exception of celeriac. Celeriac has no covering at all. You just wet the compost you're going to sow it on top of first and let it drain. Then you sow the celeriac on top and you don't cover it because it needs the light to germinate, which is unlike the others because they need darkness to germinate. So check your seed packets very carefully in case it tells you not to cover your seeds at all. When you get up to the larger seeds, they have to be sown deeper. And something like the runner bean here, the seed packet advised 2.5 centimetres. That's in a pot indoors. It would be deeper if you sowed it directly in the garden. But I'm just talking today about things you will start off indoors. Now, keeping those instructions in mind, it's important to add that it's better to always sow seed too shallow than it is too deep, especially with the little ones down here. Although they may germinate, they would struggle to make it to the top of the compost and would probably rot and die in the meantime. Seeds are very willing to germinate if you give them the right conditions, because just behind each of the shells of these seeds, everyone down even to the little celeriac, just underneath that top coating, they have a food source which is stored in them to help them germinate in the first place. That's why sometimes you can just lay them on wet tissue and they will still germinate because of this food store that is just behind the outside covering. For sowing things like the French bean, the runner bean, the broad bean, it's very easy to get them upside down when you're sowing them. I think the best thing to do is to sow them in a container that is wide enough for them to turn round, because you'll have the roots come out of one side there and you'll have the flowering parts come out the other. And if you give the bean enough room to turn round, it will find its own way. But of course, it's not just the depth that you sow your seed that's important, but what you actually sow it into. When I first started off, I thought everything grew in garden soil, but I've learned over the years that you can really give your seeds a good head start by using the right seed compost. It has less nutrients in it to confuse the seed. The multi-purpose and the potting compost are naturally coarser and the little seed will get lost in them. The seed compost, by contrast, is a much finer texture. And when you sow the seeds into seed compost, remember they're not going to be in there very long at all. It just takes them past the germination stage and then you pot them on into the potting compost. Another tip is to make sure that your seed compost is warm enough for the plants because they won't germinate if it's too cold. If you feel it is a little cold, you can always water it with some warm water before you sow the seeds. But bring it inside for a little while before you start and it will soon warm up. And then finally, what do you sow these seeds into? The old traditional way was in large seed trays like this, or half seed trays. Nowadays we have quarter seed trays. They may actually be a fifth, I'm not too sure, but they're the smaller ones. These ones are really good if you don't have too much to sow, because they don't waste this precious seed compost and you can spread them out better. Also, module trays. We have ones like this, slightly bigger ones with 4 compartments, and then very tiny modules like this, that if you've got enough patience, you can sow individual seeds in. And there's probably every size of module you can think of in between. The good thing about growing in modules like this is if they're big enough to put a runner bean seed in and keep it going for quite a while, you can also use them as mini seed trays. The other things to use obviously are pots. I've got teeny little ones like that, which you can grow individual seeds. I started this chilli here that's trying very hard to get on the camera. I started him off in one of these last year. This is a demon red chilli. It's a very hot one. Or if you have a lot of pots this sort of size, they're ideal for the broad beans, but especially the runner bean. One of my favourite things to use costs nothing. It's a tomato tray that you would get your tomatoes in from the supermarket. I use these for all types of things, but mainly I use them for micro veg. I just put about that much compost in the bottom. It's like a little greenhouse as well. It keeps them warm. And by the time they get to the top, they're ready to eat. I also grow my lettuces in them all year round. That's my lettuce leaves ready to eat now, so I shall be cutting them soon. And the other great freebie is something like this, which is a mushroom tray. If you want to use one of these as an alternative to one of these, just put holes in the bottom. But I tend to use these as water trays to hold my lettuce. Last thing you need with your seeds is labels. Do not forget to label them. Oh, these are the traditional vegetables that I like to sow. But of course what you sow depends on your preferences and your location. But this is just a general guide to get you started. So thank you for joining me today. Please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss out on any videos I make through the year. Bye for now.